somebody made me angry and I'm gonna. Hi, I'm Father Charles, and welcome to my channel. One of the things that we have to realize about life itself is that we are ultimately responsible for how we view certain things. Our viewpoint of things changes how we proceed with acting in a specific situation. Now, I've oftentimes heard other people say stuff like, somebody made them angry, somebody made them cry, somebody made them this, or somebody made them that. The truth of the matter is, when it comes to somebody's interaction with you, you're responsible for your own feelings. Okay, I know that might be kind of hard for some people to accept, but it's true. You're responsible for your own feelings. Now, it is true that something might happen. Let's say if somebody was to come in and throw some water on me or something like that, I probably wouldn't be too happy about that. Okay, but it's not that they made me angry. It was my response to what they did, but they didn't make me respond like that. Now, let me give you an example of that. Let's take two people. Okay, somebody throws water on one person would be very upset. Take somebody else. Somebody throws water on them, and they'll just kind of let it go. Okay, it doesn't mean that the second person is a pushover or anything like that. It's just their mind is conditioned in such a way when certain things happen to them, they don't allow themselves to slide into a overly negative way of looking at things. They are fully aware that their emotional response to something, it might not be logical, and because their emotional response to something might not be logical, many people are a little bit more cautious of how they allow their emotions to impact their decisions and allow their emotions to impact their actions. And so because of that, when we think about somebody making us angry, even making us happy, we have to understand that other people are not responsible for our feelings. We're responsible for our own feelings. Now, it is true that we have to be aware of how our actions might impact somebody. Now, what I mean by that is this. I don't want to go around throwing water on people because I'm fully aware that their emotional response to that might not be too pleasant. I also don't want to go around speaking to somebody in a negative way because I also realize, especially if I'm wearing a collar or they know who I am, I don't want to speak to them in a specific kind of way because that's going to negatively impact them. Not only that, it's going to negatively impact the church. And so when I look at myself and I realize the impact that I have on people, I'm cautious of how I interact with them. And I think it would be wise for more people to have that understanding. Now, it is true that some people out there might be in a state of depression or a state of anxiety or a state of just not having a very, very, very good day. And when a person is not having a very, very good day, sometimes it's harder for them to impact others in a positive way. How can you impact others in a positive way if you're not being, or if you're not in a positive place yourself? And so because of that, we also have to look and understand where we are emotionally at a given time. Okay. When we start doing those kind of things and we take full responsibility for how we interact with others, it changes our outlook on life. Let me give you an example of that. Let's say if you got two people and one person threw some water on another, okay? And the response to one person throwing water on another, the person who had the water thrown on them, let's say they throw a brick back at the person who threw the water on them, okay? Now, I don't know what the laws are or anything, but I imagine, legally speaking, throwing a brick at somebody would probably be much worse than throwing water at somebody. So while both of them might be legally wrong for what they did, one person is much more in the wrong than the other would be. And when they stand before a judge, the judge is going to give them quite stiff punishment. And what if the person who had the water thrown on them and threw the brick of the other one, what if they said this? Well, Judge, I was upset or matter of fact, not that. He upset me, so I did this. That's not going to help his or their their testimony. It's not going to help their defense. Essentially, the judge is still going to give them a number of years in a place they probably don't want to be. So the legal system has very little regard for how somebody might be feeling at a certain time when they make a certain action. It is true that there may be some extenuating circumstances where the legal system takes that into consideration, but the legal system will still hold somebody accountable for the decisions that they make despite whatever condition they were in. There's some people who are in conditions to where it's very, very difficult to hold them legally responsible for their action because of a variety of different things that I don't want to get into. But for the most part, the legal system doesn't take that into consideration very much because most people don't have those extenuating circumstances surrounding them when they make decisions. Oftentimes, people, when they make a bad decision, they try to use those extenuating circumstances to their advantages, but oftentimes it doesn't work. And so the best way to proceed is like this. We have to understand that nobody is responsible for how we feel. However you feel, it's how you feel. And your mindset, how you proceed in looking at things, it alters your reality. And so if you can be aware of where you are emotionally, of how something impacted you, especially if you're angry, you might want to step back before you make a very, very bad decision. But you have to be aware that other people aren't responsible for your feelings. And if they aren't responsible for your feelings, you're responsible for your feelings. And if you're responsible for your feelings, you must be aware that how you look at life is shaping the things that you do. And if your feelings, if you're in a place to where you're not feeling very good, you're negative, one of the best things that you can do is step back, even take some time, listen to something that is a prayer or something like that, or listen to an audio Bible. That can help you out tremendously, because what will happen is it'll bring you back to a place of centeredness, and you can proceed with life from a more positive direction. I'm Father Charles, and have a wonderful day.